To understand the Gunpowder Plot, one has to travel back 70 years to the volatile times of Henry VIII and the complicated set of diplomatic discussions with the Pope concerning his divorce from Catherine of Aragon. Effectively a captive in his own city since 1527 of the all-powerful Habsburg army of Charles VI of Spain, the Queen's nephew, the Pope refused, time and again, the king's requests, despite the entreaties of Cardinal Wolsey, the king's legate. By 1534, the king had had enough, declaring that he was breaking from Rome. This was confirmed by Parliament in the Act of Supremacy that formally declared him as the supreme head on earth of the Church of England. England now joined a Protestant Reformation movement that had grown across Northern Europe in the early decades of the 16th century, following the teachings of men like Martin Luther and John Calvin, and it gave to the king legal status for the dissolution of the monasteries, which did much to swell the coffers of the Tudor treasury. The Tudor ascendancy was to continue under his son Edward VI, the boy king, who in his short reign pushed through a number of radical reforms. After Edward had died, Mary I, Bloody Mary, the daughter of Catherine of Aragon, and as ardent a Catholic as her brother had been a Protestant, reversed course, restoring Catholicism, burning some 400 Protestant martyrs at the stake, and even marrying Philip of Spain in 1554, a union that stirred nationwide resentment as well as a fear of foreign rule. After the death of Bloody Mary in 1558, Elizabeth I, the daughter of Anne Boleyn, began her long reign and sought a middle way, the Vitae Media, although the Act of Supremacy and the Act of Uniformity made Protestant worship compulsory and placed the Queen at the head of the Church. Catholics who refused to accept these two acts faced fines and confiscation of lands, and as a group were increasingly marginalized and became the focus of suspicion. This massively increased after the Pope excommunicated the Virgin Queen in 1570, and diplomatic tension turned to open warfare after Mary Queen of Scots, who had fled Scotland in 1568, was executed in 1586 after Walsingham, the Queen's spymaster, uncovered her support for plans to assassinate the Queen in the Babington Plot. Outraged, Philip II of Spain launched the Spanish Armada in 1588 to avenge Mary's death and crush Protestant England, with English fireships and the weather foiling his best laid plans. By the time Elizabeth died in 1603, to be succeeded by James I, James VI of Scotland, the first of the Stuart kings, and the son of the beheaded Mary Queen of Scots, England's Catholics had endured 70 years of turmoil. But although James had been raised a Protestant in Scotland, there were many weary Catholics who looked to his coronation as a new beginning, after which Elizabeth's harsh laws might be eased. Among these who hoped for a better time under the new regime was Robert Catesby, an educated, devout and charismatic member of the Warwickshire gentry whose family had lost wealth and standing under Elizabeth's rule. Yet King James quickly made it clear that he supported continuity and not tolerance, with the persecution of the Catholic minority resumed, with stiffer fines for transitions such as recusancy, the act of refusing to attend Church of England services. With the world closing in on England's Catholic community, Catesby became convinced that only one act, a radical and violent one, could end Protestant rule. This was the destruction of Parliament itself. To this end, in May 1604, he met with a small band of co-conspirators in a rented house near the Strand in London, and swore an oath of secrecy. Later that day, they took mass together from a Jesuit priest, sealing their conspiracy. This band of co-conspirators included Thomas Wintour, a well-educated gentleman from Worcestershire who had recently returned from Spain, Thomas Percy, from the powerful Northumberland family, who held an important post in the king's bodyguard, and John Wright, a devout Yorkshireman and a lifelong friend of Catesby. But it most famously also included Guy Fawkes, another Yorkshireman who had served as a mercenary in Flanders, fighting for Catholic Spain, and who was revered for his military calmness and discipline, as well as his expertise in gunpowder. The plan that the conspirators hatched was simple and bold. They were to blow up Parliament at its opening, killing the king, his ministers, and his lords. With the government destroyed, they would seize the king's 9-year-old daughter, Princess Elizabeth, and proclaim her as the Catholic Queen, a child monarch raised as a Catholic, while Catesby, a bold dream for a country gentleman of modest rank, would lead the council on her behalf. Almost a year later, in March 1605, Thomas Percy, using his position as a trusted and well-known member of the king's bodyguard, obtained a lease on an unused vault beneath the House of Lords. Having chosen the state opening of Parliament on the 5th of November for their attack on the Stuart monarchy, an event when the King, the Lords, and the Commons would all be present in one place, the Lords' Chamber, they slowly and secretly stashed 36 barrels of gunpowder in the vault, with Guy Fawkes posing as Percy's servant, taking charge. However, their secret began to leak, and on the 26th of October, an anonymous letter had reached Lord Monteagle, warning him not to attend the session. This message soon found its way to Robert Cecil, the king's spy master, who ordered a full search of the cellars. At midnight on the 4th of November, guards discovered Guy Fawkes waiting with a lantern, ready to strike the next day. Guy Fawkes was arrested and taken to the Tower of London, where torture soon forced him to name his co-conspirators. Catesby and several others fled London for the north, a traditionally strong Catholic region, but they were cornered at Holbeach House in Staffordshire and killed in a gunfight. The other surviving conspirators were tried and condemned in January 1606. Found guilty of high treason, they were condemned to the traditional and terribly painful death of being hanged, drawn, and quartered. Guy Fawkes was to escape this fate, though, leaping from the scaffold and breaking his neck on impact before the executioner could begin his work. The Gunpowder Plot was followed by a fierce backlash against England's Catholic minority, who only a short time earlier had hoped for a better life under their new king. In the years that followed, the 5th of November became a day of national thanksgiving. By the Georgian era, the solemn commemoration had turned into a loud, defiant festival of bonfires and fireworks, with the effigy of the Guy thrown to the flames. The failure of the plot confirmed the Protestant ascendancy and defined England's religious identity for centuries. Britain still gathers each November to remember a conspiracy that failed but changed history. Remember the 5th of November.